after the last one, I kind of pretty much quickly knew that I wanted the next talk, whenever I did it, to be about discipline, because I just had this kind of moment of clarity about discipline, because I was thinking about what I want to achieve, and I was thinking, what's the difference between where I am now and who I would need to be to achieve the things that I want to achieve. Hey Carly, hey. So who I need to be to achieve the things that I want to achieve. Literally just started. I'm just sort of giving a bit of a preamble as to why I chose discipline. Posty Mike, what's up? Doing a bit of a creativity live chat, just so you know. So I was thinking, and I realised that it's not so much discipline, but it's more that I needed to up my game in that area. I'm not an undisciplined person. Like if I say I'm going to do something, usually I get around to doing it. Maybe I think I do that more than I actually do, but I'm pretty good at sort of getting things done. But I think what I became aware of is that if you really have a big intention for yourself, that you have to raise your game. You have to bring a certain edge to what you're doing that may or may not exist. So this is what inspired me to realize that maybe the next conversation would be discipline. So that's why that came up. Thank you, Tony. That's very nice of you to say. And Libby Ann, welcome. So for example, this morning, I set this plan out for myself that includes gym 3 times a week, which I think I'm like most people, like it still feels like a bit of a chore. It's not my favorite thing to do. But I said to myself, and this I'll come back to this later, is that basically my plan is 3 times a week. So I got up and I did it, and I thought I can't come here and talk about discipline and in the morning of that day where I'm going to be talking about discipline, sack off something that I've said I'm going to do. So it's kind of like this, it's almost like this ongoing process that you have to constantly kind of reinvent every day. You have to create it anew every day of like this level of discipline. On your hen do 6 years ago, blimey, cool, nice one. So I was thinking, what is it? What is discipline? Because it's really about doing the things that you say you're gonna do. It's like about setting out. You have a goal in mind, perhaps, that you wanna get to, and it's about setting out to do the things that you want to do. It's about changing your habits as well, because you might habitually say, food is a really easy sort of example. You might want to eat more healthily, but you have this habit of defaulting to a certain type of sugary snack, or just when you're thirsty, not drinking water, drinking Coke or something like that. And so the discipline is about every day reinventing yourself as a person who has this habit rather than this habit. And the reason I think that it's so difficult is because it's not sexy at all. It's about delayed gratification, because it's all about, if I continue to do this over a period of time, my life will be in a different place, or I will have achieved the thing that I want to achieve, or I won't have the thing that I don't want anymore. I will have the thing that I do want, but it's not going to be tomorrow. If you start being disciplined today, you're not necessarily going to get what you want tomorrow. It might be 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years. Hey Pauline and Pen Source, welcome. Doing a bit of a chat about being a creative. I'll give you an example of a really fascinating conversation that I just had recently at work. So we're working with some stunt coordinators at the moment on this job that I'm doing. And I've never really worked with stunt people before, so I've not really got any concept of what it is that they do. So there's a bit of downtime, so I was chatting with one of the guys, and I was like, so what exactly do you have to do to train to be a stunt coordinator? And he's like, so check this out. He goes, you have to sort of basically master 6 different disciplines. I think you can choose what some of them are, but one of them is you have to become minimum a brown belt in a martial art. You have to become a dive master, which is one down from being a diving instructor, so scuba diving. You have to be able to race cars, and you have to do, I think he said, like 6 races, and you can't just like crash out on the race. You have to actually complete the race. Even if you don't win it, you've got to complete the race. And then there's a couple of other things that are mandatory, and then I think some other things, maybe guns and something else. Then you have to take the exam the exams to actually qualify. This is for British stunt people. Other countries don't necessarily have the same standards. But my jaw just hit the floor because I had no idea that I mean, obviously they're awesome, and we see their work all the time in all the different films and TV shows that we watch. But I just had no idea what was behind it. And so the reason I bring this up is just thinking of the amount of discipline that it takes. If I today, with my bad knees, it's not going to happen, but if I today said I wanted to be a stunt coordinator, it would probably be 3-4 years before I could achieve it. So that level of discipline that they have to apply to being a creative, that journey won't be sexy. That journey of like day to day to day, having to go to martial arts classes, having to go to driving school, having to do all these different, having to get yourself to the coast so that you can do your dive training or whatever. That's a long game to play, and so when you start that journey, the day after you start that journey, you're not going to have the riches, you're not going to reap the rewards of all your work. It's going to be years before you reap that reward, and that's what discipline is. Because discipline to me is about, and the more disciplined your life is, the more riches you can reap. But it's a very sobering experience, and I think it's interesting that like religion has a lot of discipline in it, because it is kind of a religion, like say for a monk, for example, and because it is almost a religious experience in the sense of like a monk-like experience almost, when you bring in like real discipline into your life, because it's almost like you're stripping away personality and replacing it with just your habits. It's just basically your discipline. You become who you become the result of your habits, and that's who you become. That's who you are now. If you bring in like real like discipline into your life, there's no space for I don't feel like it, or personality in your way through life, because you've made these commitments to this discipline. So I think there's something quite religious about, I don't mean religious in the sense of like the bad stuff, basically. I'm not talking about it on that level. I'm just talking about in terms of, say how monks and nuns and stuff like that can be very, there's not much personality, as it were, to those people, because they're so in their order and their discipline. They literally change their habits. They're putting on a habit. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. Now, obviously, in our lives, we're living in the real world. We're not living in monasteries and all the rest of it. So we're not necessarily going to do the same to that same level. But I did have this really clear moment of clarity that if you want to up your game, if there's something you really want, discipline is the key. Discipline is the way to make that thing happen. I'm going to say hello to some people who've just joined. Richard, Elsa, Adam and Trevor. Hey, welcome. So this is a chat about being a creative. This week I'm talking about discipline. I've talked about other topics, and they're all on YouTube. Link is in my bio on the gram. This week is discipline because it was just something that, just really landed with me so clearly, of just like upping your game, using discipline to up your game and bring an edge to what you're doing, so that you can achieve the things that you really want to achieve. Now, look, the thing is, if you're content with where things are and everything's just like, everything's in a nice state of flow, then you may already have the level of discipline you require to have the things that you need. Well, you must do, because you have the things that you need and want. What I'm talking about is if there's something in your world that you're like, I want that badly, I would bet money on the fact that what needs to change to bring that to you is to just up your game in terms of discipline. Libby says, you should read a book called The Healing Code. Really helped personally being a freelance designer. Very good. Okay, I will look out for that. I'm not got a lot of time for reading at the moment, but I will bear it in mind. Thank you for the suggestion. And Adam says, hello and good evening. Hello. And Keat Desmoke. Oh my God, I don't know what that, but Keat. All right, Keat. And Martha, hey, welcome. Wicked. Oh, and Amelia's here. Nice one. Nice to see ya. So what else about discipline? Okay, so basically what it comes down to is that you just become your word. And it's not your word to anybody else. It's not like you've got to keep some commitment that you made to anybody else. It's keeping your word to yourself. I say that this is going to happen. Hey, G Unique and GS Mackett, welcome. One of the hardest things I think with discipline and trying to bring a new regime or something like that is that, and I fall foul of this many times, is like going with how I feel rather than what I said I would do. And I think that that's how most people just navigate life, is they reference off how they feel. Now, feelings, emotions are temporary and transient, and I think we should listen to our feelings less. Not to say if you feel a way about something, or if you get a suspicion or a hunch or something like that, that you shouldn't act on it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you say you're going to do something, and on the morning, like this morning with me going to the gym, I was lying in bed for ages, because my thing is I have to do it first thing, because otherwise it ain't gonna happen. That's not strictly true, but I've got a better chance of getting a workout in if I do it first thing. And I ended up being in bed for ages because I knew that as soon as I got up, I would have to go to do this thing. So I was delaying getting up, but I didn't want to succumb to how I was feeling. Otherwise, I just wouldn't have gone, because I didn't feel like it. My throat feels a bit weird and I was feeling a bit run down. Reasons. But I think if you want to bring that discipline in, I think it's got to be, and this is a work in progress for me, I think it's got to be that you've got to override how you're feeling, and just it's a balance, because I don't want to be here suggesting, oh, you know, if your knee hurts or something, go to the gym anyways. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about jeopardizing your well-being, but I'm just saying that we generally like to go with how we feel when we decide to do something, but I think when it comes to the realm of achievement, if you reference off how you feel, you ain't going to get what you want. You have to do it anyways, regardless. It's like marathon runners. They don't just go, I bet Mo Farah doesn't, like, I don't feel like it today. I'll do it another day. And he doesn't go for his, 10K run that morning. He does it regardless. Shows up, continues to show up. So you've got to ignore how you feel and be your word, and keep your word to yourself. The other thing I was thinking about, like in terms of upping your game, like upping the intensity of your discipline, is that maybe it's one of those things that needs to be finite, rather than saying, because that can be quite intimidating. If you say for example, you said you want to give up meat because you want to be more healthy or whatever, it's quite intimidating to think that for the rest of your life you will never eat meat, or for the rest of your life there's no more dairy. So make it finite, because for me, what I'm doing at the moment, the process I'm sort of experimenting with, is having this 3-month period of just like intense sort of more discipline, and more just overriding how I'm feeling, and just doing the things that I said I'm going to do. And I'm already starting to see the change, and I hope by the end of this 3 months that I'll be able to report back to you and say, yes, I've been to the mountaintop, and I can report back that yes, this does work. You just have to push through. I'm just going to go back to your comments. G Unique says, work out in the morning before your brain knows what's happening. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just get in the workout before your brain can have a chance to stop the process. Amelia says, I'm the queen of procrastination. I really need to hear this. Well, Amelia, I think we all go down that road sometimes. One of the things that I find really difficult, I'm writing at the moment, as I may have mentioned, I'm supposed to be writing a book, and one of the difficulties I have with it is that I feel like I need everything to be perfect before I feel I can start. Now, my definition of perfect is so nebulous, it changes all the time, so I'm almost creating an obstacle that doesn't need to be there. So I've got to finish my emails, I'll do my emails first, and I've got to have the rest of the afternoon clear, so that I've got to be able to have a break. You know what I mean? Like, I create all this nonsense, and so if I can't see a whole clear day, I won't write. So I've probably squandered little 2-hour and 1-hour chunks, all for weeks and weeks and weeks, where I could have had so much more written if I'd just gone, look, don't worry about the emails. You can do them on the bus or the train on the way to work, or whatever. Take advantage of this 1 hour that you have, and then at the end of the week, cumulatively, you may have been writing for 7 hours. You could have another chapter of your book written, but instead I'm sort of faffing about, going, but I must reply to those tweets. I'm trying to make the deck nice and clear and smooth and perfect before I even embark on the thing that I really want to do, the thing that really will reap benefits for me. Replying to tweets or whatever however your procrastination shows up is not going to get you anywhere. doesn't get us anywhere, any of us anywhere, but we do it because we haven't brought in the discipline that we need, but we can train ourselves to be disciplined. Tony Williams, 2M, says people need to adopt the attitude of discipline to the smaller things they choose to do first. Only then can they adopt it to the bigger goal. I mean, that's a really interesting point, because my acting coach says that the mistakes you make in life are the mistakes you're going to make in acting, i.e. how you do one thing is how you do everything. Yoga teachers say the mistakes you make in life are the mistakes you're going to make on the mat. And so if you apply a level of rigor to everything you do, or try to introduce it anyways, you might start to see your life show up differently anyways. If, even little things like, I'm not very good at, I go into different phases, but basically of putting things back where they belong. After I first tidied up, I'm like really good at like putting everything back, because I love how tidy everything looks. But slowly, I start to make a mess, and more of a mess, until there's crap everywhere, and it sort of annoys me, and then I have to start again. But if I were to bring a little bit of rigor to that, I think it would bring a little bit more order to everything I'm doing. So I think, Tony, you're right. It's like, if you start with the small things, because it's about the habit, it's about the mental habit of, I'm going to do this impeccably. And I don't think a lot of us have impeccability as a sort of default goal or quality in our lives, but I think impeccability is what will get you a lot of the things that you want. Now, impeccability is quite a high exacting standard to reach, so maybe if you make it finite, then it might be easier to achieve impeccability. Even if you start with just Mondays are impeccable day, or whatever. Or I'm going to try a week of being impeccable. My eating is going to be impeccable. I'm always going to be on time for stuff. I'm going to do everything that I said I said I was going to do. Just experiment with it. We don't talk about impeccability at all, or if we do, I think we hold it as something that weirdos do, like people who are a bit too organized or a bit too focused, or a bit like, who do they think they are? Do you know what I mean? If you know someone that's always like sharp dressed whenever they turn up, there is a little bit of I think we generally seem to have this attitude of, who do they think? Do you know what I mean? Like, so maybe impeccability is something that we need to learn to embrace, rather than think of as something, I don't know, something either A, unachievable, or B, an act of arrogance. Because being impeccable is just about saying, I want the very best for myself. It's just a huge act of self-love. Adam says, I learned much of my discipline from sports training is perfect, such as athletics and martial arts. Learning to fight and stay on your feet with fatigue. I mean, God, I bet that stuff teaches you so much. And also, you're in a team, people are relying on you. Even if you're not in a team, but you're fighting against somebody, and so they're relying on you to not be lazy with your moves or whatever, and not injure them, or be safe and things like that. So there's so much you can learn from sports. The other thing I think as well is that how one plays a game is how you function in life. And so if you're follow the rules or whatever, then you can see a lot about who somebody is by how they play a game. It tells you a lot about how they live their lives. Because I think it's quite telling when somebody cheats at a game. I know it's like it's supposed to be just a laugh or whatever, but I think you learn a lot about somebody if they're willing to cheat at a game. I'll leave it at that. Andrew says, some of my best inspiration comes when I'm avoiding doing shit I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, I'm sure that's possible. I mean, it depends what you want. If you're looking for inspiration, then yeah, you need to engage a different part of your brain, a different part of your being. But if you're looking for, discipline and achieving something, then that's where the discipline comes in. It's not like every minute of every day you're rigidly sticking to something. There's going to be, okay, I'll come to this, but there's going to be space for allowing inspiration in too. So it's not like it's got to be either or. Either you're disciplined or you're free and inspired and in flow. You can make space for both. Tony says, enthusiasm as a lifespan. Explain. I think, I got you. Libby Ann says, procrastination, that's the word. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Maybe I'll say a little bit about procrastination. Confabulation galore. I like the idea of a finite commitment. Yeah, I think that just makes it more achievable that, you haven't committed for eternity. You've just set this one little goal, And 3 months, I think, is a really reasonable amount of time to try something on for size, i.e. I'm going to try and work out for 3 months committedly and see where I end up. Or I'm going to try writing my book for 3 months. Or whatever the thing is that you want to achieve. And the most important thing about it, and I think it's easier when it's finite, is to make a stand for yourself and say, this will be so regardless. Because there are things that we make a stand for in our lives that are unequivocal, you know, and we need to do that more, I think, if we want to achieve things that you know, our hearts desire. Because I think genuinely in life, I think we're very willing to accept compromise and, oh, well, never mind, I tried. When actually we also declared at one point that this thing was important to us, and I really wanted it in my life. If you want to have your book finished, if you want to have your film made, you've got to make a stand for it and you to achieve it. Can't just like be blown around by the wind and whims of life and just go, oh, well, you know, because I don't know, say for a simple example of like having kids or whatever, you make a stand that they're going to eat and have clothes on their back. You know, you don't, one week say your boss, the payment didn't go through, your wages didn't go through. You wouldn't go, oh, well, kids, well, we're not eating tonight. You know, you would find a way, because you've made this unspoken stand that your kids' well-being is important and that they're going to always eat and always have clothes on their back. We have to have that same level of commitment for the things that we want in our sort of creative lives, if they are that important to us. Because if you are not willing to make that stand, then they're not that important to you. That's it. Because otherwise, how do you think this thing is going to happen? And it's not like it all has to come from you, but your stand for something inspires people around you to know, oh, she is serious, or he is serious about this thing. And maybe that starts to inspire assistance from the universe, through other people around you. I stay with my mum sometimes, and it seems like I'm always like, Mum, I'm on a diet, stop overfeeding me, because she tends to plate up bowls of food and we serve ourselves rather than a plate of food as she cooks. And I realised the last time it happened that she was like, oh, have a bit of cake, have a bit of something. And she was doing all that. And I was blaming her. I was like, Mum, I'm trying to diet here. And I said, why are you always feeding me up? You're not supporting me. And then I realised I am not consistent with how I am with food around her. So she's getting these subliminal messages from me that sometimes cake is okay and sometimes it isn't. Sometimes, crisps are in and sometimes they're out. And I'm never consistent. And I realise I have to show up as the person who doesn't eat that stuff for her to be on board and not subconsciously sabotage me. It's all on me. So when people are... there's not many people in your lives that will deliberately be trying to sabotage you, but if you feel like there's not support around you for the thing that you've decided, it may be because your commitment to it, you're not solid in your commitment to making it so, to making a stand for it. And so the people around you are like, oh, well, sometimes he's writing and sometimes he's just on playing FIFA. So, so they're not going to be on board with your commitment because they don't see you being on board with it. Junique says, are you going vegan too? I'm about to give a go as well. Wish me luck. I love my cheese. Apparently some amazing vegan cheese. I'm not going vegan, but I am considering it. Andrew says, good luck, dude. Cheese would be my downfall. Junique says, thanks. Yvonne, hello. Is that Yvonne? Yes. Adam, as a youngster, I was disciplined to succeed academically so that I had more options available to me and avoid being further exploited. That's it. And also that goes back to the thing I was saying about it being finite. If you're, preparing for exams at 16, it will end. It will start again, if you go to university or go into higher education or further education, but it ends. And so you have a little moment to breathe and then you start the process again. It's not like there's going to be one time in life where you super disciplined and then it stops. It's constantly reinventing yourself as this disciplined person, and maybe at some points it needs to be even more disciplined and other times it can be a bit looser, but the more discipline one has in their life, the more riches will be reaped, but it is a very sober experience. There needs to be a part of you that is quite grounded and willing to be, for want of a better word, mature, adult. I don't want to put judgments on it, but it does call for a different level of human being to be able to bring in discipline that means that there's long-term rewards that you don't experience immediately. G Unique says, I play many sports, golf being my favourite. I agree with your view about seeing how people sometimes are prone to cheating. I tend to avoid them afterwards. Yeah, I don't like cheats. Martha says, I think discipline is closely linked to motivation as well, and this concerns me a bit because I struggle to maintain motivation for a lot of things. Okay, Martha, so this goes back to what I was saying about you do it regardless. You do it regardless of how you feel, and that is how you override motivation. Because if you wait until you feel like doing the thing, then a lot of things won't happen. So you have to change, you have to flip the script, do it the other way around and say, this will be so. On Mondays, on Wednesdays, on Fridays, I will do whatever the thing is, gym, whatever the thing is. And I will not waver from that. I will make a stand for it. The same as I want my kids to eat and have clothes on their backs, I will make a stand every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. No excuses. That's what the Nike thing is. Just do it. It took me years to figure out why just do it. Because that's what they're saying. Is just stop making any fucking excuses. Just do it. Regardless of how you feel. In fact, how you feel is irrelevant because feelings are so temporary. That are you going to let that stop you, or are you going to let your commitment keep you so that the thing that you said you were going to do happens? What I was going to move on to on this very topic, Madeline and Zoe have joined. Welcome. Amelia says it feels like exams never end, but they do. Martha says finite. Okay, this gives me hope. Yes, definitely go finite. Trevor says, totally bang on. Adam has gone like that. Thank you, Adam. So to be more practical for a second. Okay, so, all right, so we've got this finite period that we're going to work in. You set yourself a goal. What is it that you want? What do you say it is like? Oh, Martha, was it Yoda says? Either do or do not do. There is no try. Do it. Just do it. G Unique's loving this topic right now. Thank you. Libby Ann, back again. Kids stories done. Oh, nice one. Well, welcome back. So let's get practical a second. Okay, so you set your goal. Let's say it is this book, right? Say you're writing a book and you're going to give yourself 3 months to do it. You're going to make a stand that this book exists. Somehow this book is going to exist at the end of this 3 months. So where are we now? So we're middle of April, middle of May, middle of June, middle of July. By the middle of July, this book is going to exist, and you make a stand for that. Now, what that means is that by hook or by crook, by any means, this book is going to exist. And then when you come at it from that perspective, that you've made a stand for it, then you orientate your circumstances, you orientate yourself in relation to your circumstances based on that, rather than the other way around. If I can find, because otherwise, what people normally do is they let the circumstances dictate whether the thing will happen. So you'll say, I'll try and do the book by the middle of July, and then what will happen is, you'll get another job, or you'll decide actually you want to do something else, or your garden, something happens with your garden, so you've got to put a new fence in, or whatever it is. And somehow that 3 months becomes 4 months, becomes 5 months. Now, obviously there's sometimes circumstances that you just can't get around. But if you put your stake in the ground or whatever and say July, mid-July, that's when the book, suddenly when all these things come up, you orientate yourself based off of that thing not moving. And you have a totally different experience of how you relate to that thing, because it is set in stone. That's the discipline that you need to. And then everything else figures out from there. So then you make a plan. All right, okay, fine. If I'm going to do this thing by the middle of July, what needs to happen in the months preceding it to make it happen? So you make a plan. Okay, that's going to require writing 3 days a week. Can you own that? Because once you've made the plan, you've got to own it. You can't just make some plan, pie in the sky, I hope this works out, and not ground it. If you can't own middle of July, make it middle of August, but make it something you can own. All right, I can't do 3 nights a week. I'll do 2, and I'll do an hour. And by then, that gives me more than enough time to finish by the middle of August. Wicked. Okay, now middle of August is what I'm aiming for. In your plan, have you allowed for rest? Have you allowed for recreation? Have you allowed for being of service? Have you allowed for exercise? Have you allowed for meditation? You know, I think this is where we go wrong with planning, is that we don't make space for all that stuff. And so it looks like torture, because all you can see is the work. Put in all the other stuff as well. Plan all the other stuff so that you have a day where you're not meant to be writing and you can kick back knowing that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing because I planned it. You know, one of the things that I've added to my plan is nurturing days, because I'm not very good at doing those sort of body kind of nurturing-y type things. So I am scheduling at least one day every month, something nice like a spa day, a massage, something like that. So that as hard as I'm working, there is always some space where I'm just like, this is for me now. There's space for me to do something artistically creative that has nothing to do with anything. So that this month is photography. So I'm going to go to somewhere and just take some photos and spend a couple of hours doing it, just to take my mind and my sort of being outside of these goals that I've set myself, and I can throw the photos away at the end of it. They don't mean anything. They're just about doing something creative that isn't about work and money. It's just about being creative for the sake of it. Trevor says, great motivation, off to the gym now, bye. See you, Trevor, have a good workout. And Zoe says, what I'm finding interesting is that for work I can set timelines and end dates, but for exercise and movement I can't seem to get discipline. I have to, it's hard. And the one I'm struggling with is meditation. That's what I want to factor in every day, and I just can't quite bring myself to do it. And I remember Portia is something that Zoe and I both know. It's a bodywork facilitator, saying just keep beginning again, just keep beginning again. So that's how I'm approaching it, is like, rather than accepting failure, just saying, okay, right, it didn't work out this time, I'll just begin again, I'll try again, and I'll keep trying. Maybe I'll try another way, because for me, I feel like maybe the journal thing is the thing that I could commit to, rather than sitting cross-legged, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. I don't think I can do that type of meditation. So maybe there's a different type of exercise or movement that you need to do that you would enjoy more, or that would entice you more. But just keep beginning again, I reckon. Adam says, you are well-grounded and a fantastic author. Thank you. I look forward to your next project. Thanks very much, Adam. Zoe says, even if I plan to do it. Yeah, I mean, I think I could, all I can say is, because I'm struggling with the same thing, is just keep beginning again, and just see, maybe try different approaches, and at least you're in the space of trying, rather than just not doing at all, by experiments with different approaches. Libby says, so simple. Need to book more spa me days. Yes, everyone should be in the spa. But I think those things are important. I don't say them lightly, to sort of schedule those sort of things, because it gives a much more balanced context to the hard work that you're going to put in to get the thing that you want. I think that being of service as well is a really good one to put in, so that it's not all about you. You're not sort of, myopically focused on what you want, that your attention can turn outwards to what the world needs from you too. So, and hopefully if you get the scheduling of this right, the planning of this right, it won't feel jam-packed. You won't feel like, oh God, now I'm supposed to be, doing a cake sale, and now I'm supposed to be at the spa, and now it should feel manageable. It might feel like you're pushing yourself, but it should be joyfully manageable. If it feels more than that, it feels like too much, then replan, because I don't think there's anything wrong with like reviewing the plan and saying this doesn't work. Something is getting compromised in a bad way because of this plan, and start again. Make a new plan. Maybe you can only work out twice a week. Maybe you can only write once a week. Maybe you can only be of service once every 6 weeks or a couple of months or something. And maybe you change the way that you're being of service. Maybe you give blood instead of doing something that takes up hours of your time. Just something that, just keep reinventing the way it works, but keep the commitment to do the thing and have the plan and schedule that you stick to. Because then once you've got the plan, you don't have to think about it. You take all the thinking out of it. You take all the consideration, the should I, shouldn't I, the how do I feel? Because you said it, it's written down. There's the plan. Also, hey Amdram UK, welcome back. And Tony says, I think we should always ask ourselves each morning, what's the one thing we would do that day that would create some sort of moment towards my stance or goal? I mean, I think that's a great approach. It's like, you know, whatever works for you. But if you're going to do that, make it a commitment that you ask every day. Marianne Williamson wrote in Course in Miracles, the daily prayer, the morning prayer, I think it's called, something like that. Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? Something like that. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? And she says, say that every morning. I tried it. It didn't really resonate with me so much, but the week or so that I managed it actually, I did feel like it orientated me in a particular way in the morning of thinking more about being of service. What universe? How would you like to use me? Like in what direction would you like to push me or take me so that I can make a difference, kind of thing. It's an interesting way to start your day. But in your process, find whatever works for you. It's got to feel joyful, joyfully manageable. I made that phrase up, but like that's how it's got to feel. Because otherwise, you don't want it to feel like atrocious. You don't want it to feel like hard work, graft, slog, you know, resenting it. Unless the reward is so fucking fantastic at the end of it that you're just like, well, it was worth it. But still, I mean, there's no point in that, because otherwise, the journey's got to be as enjoyable as the destination. Because otherwise, nah. I mean, we've said that we want to do these things and be these things. We want to be a writer, a poet, an artist, a photographer, or whatever. So the achieving of it should be joyful too. It's just that we might just need to tighten up and bring a bit of rigor and impeccability to how we do it. The Blue Knight 88 joins. Drem UK, I like that. Keep beginning again. Amelia says, I tried cognitive behavioural therapy to help with my depression and anxiety. I now use these ideas to help gain motivation. Fantastic. I mean, yeah, you've got to do what works for you. Which brings me on to my next point of knowing yourself, knowing where your weak spot is, where you fail, where you tend to let yourself down. Like, so for me, I know that if I leave working out till later in the day, it's less likely to happen. Some people do the after work thing, you know, have different times when it works for them. For me, it's got to be first thing, really. That's my best shot, is getting it done first thing. Otherwise, it's less likely to happen. So get to know where you have little blockages that stop you, and just be straight with yourself, because then you can prepare yourself for it. So say, for example, with me in the working out, I now know that if you know, I just have to get up and get gone. And the further I have to travel to the gym, the less likely I am to do it. If it means getting in a car, you know, if it's that far away, it's not happening. So I need to be walking distance from the place. Another thing is with that I've noticed with myself with unhealthy snacks is I buy them with the intent that I will drip feed the eating of them over the course of, you know, I don't know, a couple of weeks. I don't. I rinse them in about 8 days. Not even that. 4 days. You know what I mean? Like, so I just don't buy them anymore. And I'm lazy I'm feeling lazy at the point that I want a snack. So I would never go out and buy them. So at the point that I have the impulse to have them, if they're there, I'll eat them. But if they're not there, I won't go out and get them. So the only way to stop me not eating unhealthy snacks is to not buy it. I know that sounds obvious, but it's very difficult to resist the temptation when you're actually in the shop. But now that I know myself in that way, I know to not even succumb to the temptation, because I know that I won't, even though I've got this high idea that I'll sort of, you know, spread out the eating of these snacks and just, you know, just have a little morsel of something and put it away. No. You know, I've got these things here, which are delicious, and they're such a big bags, and I'm thinking, well, you just eat half the bag and then, no, I'll eat the whole thing. So I just got to stop buying them. Simple as. I don't need food like that anyways. No one needs that sort of food. It's just sort of comfort food. So know yourself in terms of where your foot is now down, where you get pulled, what can pull you off your trajectory, what can pull you off your path. to getting the thing that you want, to being able to realize this plan that will help you achieve your goal. Let's go back here. Andrew says, I'm a long time depression sufferer, and it's great to hear when people find ways to push past the black dog. That is great that you guys have found ways. It is a challenging condition to manage, so good on you both. Adam says, knowing myself is a constant ongoing discovery. I mean, it really is, because yeah, the more you know yourself, the more that you can trick yourself and plan around yourself, as it were. And also, one other thought that I was having is that, and I brought this up several times before, I think, is just to see where the parameters of the beliefs that we have about ourselves or the world or what we are capable of, just start to see the edges of those and see that they're not actually real. Because I was watching something the other day, I can't remember what, but they were talking about a lot of things to do with physical ability might be more to do with your mind rather than what the body is capable of. And basically, I think they're inferring that the body is capable of much more than the mind thinks it is, and it's only your very limitations, mental limitations, that actually limit what your body can achieve. I saw Tony Robbins doing some sort of mind experiment with somebody. He was like, stretch your arm back like that, and then he said, he told them to imagine that your arm can go much further, and then they were able to move their arm much further back, and in the first instance they thought they were going as far as they could, but actually once he had said whatever he'd said to them, they were able to move their arms much further back. And I think if you take that to all areas of our lives, of thinking, you know, what we can achieve, not just physically, but what we can generate in our own lives, we might find that we can achieve way more than we thought, and that we were just limiting it. We're putting these false limitations on ourselves because they're beliefs that we've held and don't serve us and aren't real. You know, earlier someone was talking about, I think it was Amelia, was talking about procrastination. You know, you never know. Procrastination might be a story that you're telling yourself about yourself. Oh, you know me, I procrastinate. And then the more you say it, the more it becomes true. The more people around you go into agreement with you about your procrastination. And then whenever you catch yourself procrastinating, you go, there I go again, procrastinating, ignoring all the times that you're not procrastinating and achieving. Because that doesn't fit your narrative of you being a procrastinator. You might actually be more effective than you realize. But if you've got this narrative going about, oh, that's what I'm like, then you only notice the times when you're being like that, when actually you might be imposing these untrue, limiting views in yourself. So really become aware, change the script, exactly, confabulations, Gloria. Change the script of what how you know yourself to be. This whole thing, I believe about discipline is about changing your habits, and that includes changing the beliefs that you have about yourself, because the beliefs you have about yourself are just habits. If you believe yourself to be a useless, worthless person, if you start to believe, actually, I am worthy, I can achieve, I am effective, if you continue to believe that and really believe it in your spirit, you will change the habit of thinking you're worthless. It is just that the beliefs that we have about ourselves aren't as fixed as we think they are. But we can't see them as beliefs. We think they're true. We think they're truths. Oh, you know me, I'm la 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 la. That's what people do, don't they? They're always doing it. You know so-and-so, he's always like this. You know her, she never da-da-da-da. And it's not always true. In fact, most of the time it isn't. People are so inconsistently variable and changeable and constantly changing and different. We have tendencies, that's all we've got. And by changing our habits, i.e. bringing in discipline, we can create totally new tendencies. Reinvent ourselves in a way that we could never have imagined. I mean, the sky is absolutely the limit, really. You can do whatever you want based on that. Do you know what I mean? You can be and do anything you want, and it's only the limitations you set on yourself. And I know people go, oh yeah, well, what if I wanted to join NASA? I can't join NASA, can I? I can't be da-da-da. Well, you could try, you could aim for it, but you've already told yourself it's not possible. So who's putting the limit on you now? Not NASA, because you haven't applied. You haven't done the physics degrees or whatever it is you need to be even be in a shot with that, because you've already told yourself this story that you can't achieve it. I've been thinking about discipline a lot, as you can tell. I've finished. I think it's just so important, and I just got so much, just, as soon as it became clear to me about the difference of where I was and who I would need to be to get where I wanted to go, I just realised that something had to change, and the whole discipline topic just sort of came to me quite sort of clearly, and so that's why I wanted to share all of that stuff with you. So I hope it was of value. I hope it sort of, maybe shook some ideas or something like that, or just planted some new thoughts or new ways of being. But I think there's something quite special and magical available to be able to usher this into our lives, and just try it on for size. Don't beat yourself up about it. Don't make it like, oh no, I wasn't disciplined today, or I screwed up. Like, we've got to give ourselves a break and just go, at least I'm giving it a go. I set the intention, and it, all right, it didn't work out, but I just start again. And sorry, that leads me to my last point, which is about integrity. Because I think when you've got discipline in your life, I think that's when you have a lot of integrity, because basically you are your word. And the people in our lives with the most integrity are the people who are their word. And if they screw up, they clean up after themselves. By making good on something however they need to, and the thing with the discipline I was saying earlier is about keeping your word, doing things that you say you're going to do for yourself, maybe for other people around you as well, if you've made those sorts of commitments. But equally, discipline or integrity inside of your discipline is also about not feeling, you shouldn't feel like you have to do it regardless, like if there's something that's going to get compromised. But when you back out of something, you do it with integrity as well. So there are ways of letting people down or backing out of a commitment that have integrity, and there are ways of doing it that don't. A simple example is like where you've arranged to meet somebody, and on the day you don't feel like going, so you just text them 10 minutes before you're supposed to meet. That's not cool. What you want to do is give them a heads up or something, as much time as possible, or maybe the day before, know that you're in a bit of a funky mood or whatever, and you're not really feeling it. Can we rearrange it for another time? Or go anyways and just say, listen, do you mind if we don't stay out as long as we were going to? Or do you mind if I'm not going to drink tonight because I'm not feeling so good? Do you know what I mean? There's ways and ways and ways of letting somebody down from a commitment that you've made that have integrity, and there are ways of doing it that don't. And I think we all know the difference between with and without integrity. I think we all have been there, we've all done it to other people, and we've all had it done to us. And we know how sucky it feels when someone lets you down. I have no problem with being let down. Well, I do a little bit, but that's my problem. But I don't mind as much being let down when someone does it with integrity. That means a lot, because it tells you something about who that person is. I remember a girlfriend of mine, like, we were meeting, and she turned up 20 minutes late and didn't say anything about anything. And I was just like, wow. Like, no, gosh, I'm sorry, buses, trains, aliens, nothing like that. And I just thought, And that told me something about her. Not that obviously I'm not going to be friends with her or something, but I lowered my expectations of her, basically, because I knew she was the sort of person not only who won't turn up on time, but won't even apologise for it when she gets there. Where there are other people that you might have the same arrangement with, and they're literally texting you like 10 minutes before going, I'm so sorry, I might be late. I keep and they'll keep you posted, and it's just like, oh mate, I really appreciate you respecting me enough to let me know what's happening, so that I'm not like standing here like a knobhead waiting for you, not knowing where you are, or if you've forgotten, or whatever. How did we deal with this before mobile phones? So that's that was the last thing I wanted to say just about discipline, is just having the integrity to feel comfortable with changing things where it's necessary, where it feels like something might be being compromised, and just find a way of doing that with integrity, basically. So that these things aren't so rigid that they can't be moved, but you must make a stand for them that they are immovable. And then if circumstances change in a way that they need to, then you take care of things. I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Oh no, wait, let me just check in on your comments. change script. So G-Unique says, I'm often guilty of that self-fulfilling prophecy syndrome. We all are, G-Unique. Yeah, I mean, it's just something that humans do. And just says, I remember reading somewhere that if you plan to do something and tell people about your plan, then you're less likely to fulfill the plan. Very interesting. I think I'll say very briefly that I think you have to be careful when you share your intentions with people, because not deliberately, but sometimes people's energies can, it's like telling people you're pregnant basically too early. Like, there's a point after 3 months or whatever it is that you're good to share, but sometimes you need to keep that something personal to you until it has gotten to a point of gestation that it can be, that it's viable. And so, yeah, I think that's probably true, is that you need to be careful about not just when, but who you tell your plans to, because other people's energy can dismantle something if it's not got enough rigor and structure to it. Viability. Joaquim says, I'm speechless today. All this has been on my mind so much, and you nailed it, Andy. Great, that's fantastic. Tony says, it sounds so simple, but the truth is, as a man or a woman thinks in his heart, her heart, so is he. Our thoughts are our major creators to our limiting beliefs. Yeah, it does sound simple, and I do make it sound simple, but that's why I keep reiterating the same message over and over again. And hopefully there's other influences around you saying the same thing, that self-mastery is about just even becoming aware of the thoughts as thoughts that might not be real all the time is a level of self-mastery above the norm. And it's just a muscle that needs to keep being nurtured. And I think it's as simple as that. And it's not like we're doing anything wrong if we don't nurture that muscle. We're doing anything right if we do. It's more just like, what do you want for yourself? Do you want that mastery over those thoughts? And have the discipline to have the things that you want, and be able to up your game and bring in that level of rigor and edge to have the things you want? Then you might have to just dismantle some of those limiting beliefs, because they're not real anyways. That's all. G-Unique says, yes, White Special. I listened to a similar lecture, implied that often the people around you often create doubt. That's it. I think that yeah, it's basically other people's subconscious doubts can infect your ideas or intentions. So just be mindful of how you share your ideas. Change your thoughts and change your life? Absolutely. I think that's possible. Change your belief system about yourself and who you are in the world and what you're capable of. Adam says, looking for approval from the wrong sort can be another limiting factor. 100%. Carly is going to watch on catch up. Cool. Okay. G-Unique says, we were all much more organised before mobile phones. I think with... depends on the resources available to us. Yeah, I mean, that was just an example, but it's more just, my thing is more about the integrity. And Andrew says the gist of telling people and not fulfilling was to do with false gratification, tricking the mind into a feeling of achievement. Oh, I see. So that if you've told people, then you feel like your mind feels like you've achieved the thing anyways. Well, then the great thing about that is that means you know a place where one can get their foot nailed down. And so, you know what I was saying about know yourself, know the places that you tend to fail, then that is a perfect, that's a thing you now know, that you can, a trick that you cannot fall into. Love it. Well, guys, thank you for being here. And thanks for letting me have that 2-week break. It was very needed and much appreciated. I'm really delighted that you guys were able to make it back here and join again this Sunday evening. I will have a think about, excuse me, I'll have a think about what next week's topic will be. If you have any thoughts, please feel free to share. Thanks, Carly. Thanks, Joaquim. Yeah, please feel free to just message me or something. The timing of this couldn't have been better. Fantastic. No, I'm really, really pleased that this is striking a chord. And if there's other topics that you feel like might be useful to you or to everybody else, then just hit me up, drop me a message or whatever and let me know. Otherwise, I will see you at the same time next week for another chat. Thanks, guys. See ya. Hey, guys. So one other thing that I wanted to add at the end of that live talk, which I didn't, was that I wanted to direct you towards Will Smith's Instagram page, because He's done a couple of, hey Amelia. So I was just saying, I just wanted to direct you guys to, Rasmus, how's it going? I wanted to direct you guys to Will Smith's Instagram page, because he has done a couple of sort of Instagram stories, and he's put them in the highlights under his profile, and one is on discipline and one is on self-love. So go and check out Will Smith's highlighted Instagram stories. Watch the one on discipline first. It's only like 2 minutes or something like that. Watch the one on discipline, and then watch the one on self-love. They're actually in the opposite order. But they sum up basically a lot of, you know, what I was talking about. And one of the things that really struck a chord with me about what Will Smith said was that discipline, I wrote it down, self-discipline is the definition of self-love. And I thought that was brilliant. He also says self-discipline is the center of all material success. So check those little Instagram stories out. They're at the top of their highlighted Instagram stories on Will Smith's bio. Watch Discipline first, and then watch the one called Self-Love afterwards. That was literally all I wanted to add. But yeah, have a lovely Sunday evening, and thanks again to everyone that was on the live chat, and I'm looking forward to being with you guys again next week. All right, bye.